There are ongoing difficulties for Chris, and some danger and risk persist and perhaps increase. Messages have been sent to the various agencies that we communicate with. It's a partnership that will welcome Chris to Canada. These messages have gone out to the United Nations High Commission on Refugees. The United Church of Canada is very much involved, and to the Government of Canada and the Refugee Settlement Program. So let's keep Chris in our minds and hearts and hope that we can arrange and expedite a transfer to Canada as soon as possible. This has been a process that has been ongoing for a year, and it is now even more urgent. A second matter is that we are calling a special meeting of the board for Tuesday night. This meeting will be in camera for board members only, and the decisions and reports will be released to the congregation after that meeting. But that is to address some issues that are timely. Thank you, Randy. Back to you.
Anybody else? As Peter has put up on the screen, if you want to keep contact of what's going on within the community, this is the opportunity where you can either phone in or send in an email with your email address, and you will receive the e-blast of activities, events that go on throughout the week. It's fairly robust. And I think one of the things that we've learned with COVID is that you actually don't need to be physically in Scarborough to participate. So this is great. Were there any other announcements? Okay, Scott.
Thanks, Randy. The theme today is balance. And I was out in the backyard wearing this shirt earlier this week. And we were thinking of both the Canada Day celebration and the Indigenous issues, the many Indigenous issues. And Greta was on the phone with our son Isaac, and she said to him, and I could hear her, she said, Scott seems to have found a shirt with both red and orange on it. And so I made sure I washed it, brought it again for the very idea that we need the balance between our laments and our celebrations. And the screens are filled with reds and oranges and red and orange. And I want us to enter into this idea of this precious privilege we have of being aware of inviting each other into the awareness of the interconnectedness of life, which means it's something that's happening not just in my home, not just on my block, not just in my city, but in my country and in my world. It is something I'm connected to. It has an impact on me, even if I don't understand it yet. And I have an impact on it, even if I don't understand it yet. And the idea of the heaviness of that and the privilege of that, the wonder of it, is something that we need to keep refreshing ourselves with, keep replenishing the balance within us, that we can both celebrate and dig in and do the work that needs to be done. So we're going to be talking about the both today, and in the readings Randy will be bringing us later, and the special music of today will be celebrating the things that need to be preserved and digging into the things that need to be changed with a spirit of balance. And I ran across a statement from a novel, and it said the main character in the novel felt that there was a balance of good and evil, and that the art of living consists in getting the greatest good out of the greatest evil. And I like that sort of approach to things, to acknowledge that it's there and it's hard and it's difficult, and not to trivialize, but also to retain a balance inside that can get the greatest good from it that we possibly can, even if it's just our small piece of it. So connected as we are, interconnected, grounded in that kind of approach to life, calls loudly to respond. Which way do we want to live? And keep trying to choose and keep trying to hold out in front of us and above us the idea of goodness, of love, of integrity, of kindness, of patience, of thoughtfulness, of justice, of respect, of hanging in there and working on things. I fall down in ways I don't know about yet, and we all do. And so that idea of love is said when inside it feels difficult or crushed, whether it's that same thing, to find the goodness to address that hardship with. And we need the wisdom. We need the wisdom from each one of us. We need the wisdom from ages past. We need the wisdom from everyone on this screen, even by their presence. By presence here, when you're able to come, you're saying yes to those values with each other, and that's a strengthening and a goodness, the idea of that strengthening of our values, because when we get into the fray of life, they can dilute and we run on automatic, and we need that together, a reminder of the need for wisdom to handle our own lives. And we're going to be talking about that, our own lives, the lives of those we know, the lives of those we'll never meet, and the planet that we call home, because it is the only one we have. So guided by love in our interconnected grounding in life and growing in wisdom together. We're going to do the sharing time slightly differently today, and we're doing the celebrations of organizations and the laments for them later on in the perspective section. So right now, I'm just going to ask if any of you have anything to share about your personal life, a celebration, a milestone. I will start off with two. One is a heavy one, and I'm just going to say a few more words without great detail. But Mike mentioned our Chris, or Tina as she is called, finally made a phone call connection. Well, she was on a computer actually, and I won't go into detail out of respect for her, but the details are horrendous of what she's been through, and she is feeling the shattering of all that. She's out of prison, but quite lost, and lost feeling, even though we've finally found her. So when we talk about balance, when we talk about our values, it has to be something that we can talk about in connection with Tina and all those suffering like that, and all those here in Canada that would never be treated like that for actually a false accusation. So I want us to hold Tina and all those that are dealing with injustice and cruelty. So in this our time of need,
May love abound.
And then I turn to something, and we're always turning from the both. That's the balance that we strike here. I just want to say that Greta is turning another number on Tuesday. Her birthday is Tuesday, so I'm celebrating that. If I remember the number during the service, I will tell you. But I don't know it at the moment. Not that matters at all. But anyway, so happy birthday to Greta. Any other celebrations or burdens you wish to share? And we do invite you to share them, or updates on things you've already shared.
Hi.
Andrea, I see you there. Yes, thanks.
Yeah. Just a celebration. Ted and I had our 41st anniversary while we were away at the cottage. So that was wonderful to have that chance to be together and celebrate.
In this abundant blessing.
We share the joy.
Congratulations. Anyone else, something personal or something about someone you know or love that's going through difficulties? I'm going to mention one more here. In the next couple of days, I'm probably going to be taking a funeral for the son of a dear and longtime work friend who is not yet 30 and is dying of a very aggressive brain tumor that usually doesn't appear in someone till much later in life. And Greta married them a while ago, like a couple of years ago, over a year ago. Married them knowing the diagnosis, and they're very much in love and very much suffering now. So his name is Taylor, and And I'm thinking about the whole family with this. So in this, our time of need.
Love
Love
abound.
Chris has his hands up.
Chris.
Yeah. Yes, I've received a lovely birthday card, e-card today from you all, for which I thank you. Birthday card featuring teddy bears having a picnic. I'm not quite sure what the significance of that is, although I did enjoy the teddy bears picnic as a child. And then later on, Henry Hall, the band leader, had a famous recording of it, which the quality of which was so good that the BBC used to use it as a test record in their early days. However, that's going off the point a bit. I just say, as I'm celebrating today, I thought that I would note the fact with a brief limerick, which I will share with you. So now's the time to do something else. With years flooding over the dam, I think I'll stay right where I am. As 80 draws nearer, the message is clearer. From now on, all birthdays can scram.
Oh, thank you, but we celebrate your non-celebration of birthdays, and we also want you to know that we knew about the BBC test record being the teddy bear picnic, and that's why they chose that. I'm just kidding; they did not know that, but it was very cool that you made that connection. Anyone else something to share? I'm going to put Velda on the spot. I haven't asked you in a while. I'm not looking for Velda. Just about Eleanor Camage. How is Eleanor doing, Velda?
Eleanor is doing okay. I talk to her a little bit every day. Some days we have a conversation, some days we don't.
Right.
But Chris is looking after her, and she's doing all right. I would like to bring up Dorothy Hurley. I was trying to get hold of her and couldn't reach her, and every time I phoned, I got cut off. So I got really concerned, and Ruth Gill and I got together, and we found out that she's apparently lost her hearing aids, or a hearing aid anyway. So this week I will try and phone her again and see if I can get in contact with her. She's apparently okay. She just wasn't taking the phone calls.
Right. And this is a good time to say thank you for all of you that are keeping in touch with each other during these times of separation and lockdown and quarantine and all this sort of thing. I don't know if everyone has got their second shot, but it's Isaac sent us a photograph from the, what's it called now? The Scotiabank centers, where they had given out an enormous number of vaccines, the most ever, and he was a part of that. I saw Betty's hand there.
I just wanted to say that I was in touch with Elaine Situ, and she's doing well. And
Excellent.
Also, I regularly call Wally Reed. And the last time I spoke with him, he expressed how happy he was to receive a call from you, Scott. He enjoyed it very much. Apparently, he doesn't get too many calls, but he was very, very pleased to get a call from you.
Oh, that's good. It was a good conversation.
Yes.
Wally impressed many of us at the, some of you I'm looking would have attended the Winter Light Balls, the dances that we would have together, and he and his wife danced, I have often said, like skaters on an ice rink, or like the magnetic skaters on a little mirror, so beautifully. And it's always amused me to hear that he never wanted to dance at all, not at all. It was his wife that talked him into that. And then he became this Fred Astaire of the dance floor together. And he's dancing with a new partner, a dance partner now, which is great. That's so wonderful too. Yeah, so thank you for everyone who keeps in touch. Barb. It's lovely to watch you, Barb, but we would love to hear you.
Am I good now?
You're great.
Okay. Okay. Unmute. No, am I unmuted? Yes. Hi. Hi. Scott, you and Greta, Wally and Marion, didn't they give you your dance lessons when you were going together?
Yes, it was our first date, and it was just a disaster because I couldn't count while I was moving my feet. And Greta already knew how to dance, so she sort of, gently, of course, put up with my mistake, very gently. She never even commented on them. If you know Greta, you know I'm kidding, but it was fun. Yes, you're quite right. And Linda Meyer was helping us to learn to dance. See, being a Baptist, I had never danced with anyone until I danced with Greta. So I saved myself. Anyone else? Something to share? Please let me know because we see the screens we're seeing, but I might miss somebody's hand oh, Deb, there you go, Deb.
Yeah, just a quick note that my mom celebrated her birthday on Canada Day, actually, it's July the 1st. And so we were very, very pleased to have her with us to celebrate. And she's doing quite well. She's not quite back to herself, but she's doing much, much better. So thank you for all of your love and care to each one of you. I wanted to give you the happy update. So thanks.
And that's been harder because of lack of great diagnoses too, like up in the air for a lot of that makes it so hard to know how you feel about recovery. But happy birthday to your mom, and glad for the rest of your family that things are going well with that. A little less burdensome. Anyone else? Scanning the screens of red and orange. Now, you're welcome if you didn't get I'm always amazed at how many people actually got the e-blast and read it and brought red or orange or red and orange to the screen. But if you've forgotten, don't feel bad. Just run away and get something and bring it back to the screen. Okay, if we'll wait for you. We'll definitely wait for you. If that's all the sharing time. Yes, that sounds like Linda, but I don't see you.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry.
Okay.
There's an Elaine Sadu on the screen, but it does not look like her.
Well, let's find out if it's an imposter. Let us look. Does anyone see Elaine Sidu's name on the screen?
Yes, I do.
Looks like a gentleman, doesn't it?
It's me.
It's Elaine.
Oh, it's you.
Where are you?
Yeah.
I don't.
I'm up in Caledon. I'm staying with my son now.
Now I know it's you. You look different. Sorry.
Well, I think we all do.
yeah, there you are. Now I see Elaine. How lovely.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Well, it's because you're up north, you look different. You see, that's what it is.
I apologize, Elaine. I apologize.
Oh, no problem at all.
It's good to see you, Elaine.
It's good to go through the world incognito.
A gracious bunch we are. Anyone else? We have new people on the screen that have never met with us in this building, and you're very welcome to enjoy our enjoyment when we re-see someone we haven't seen in a while, and you could probably relate to that in your own lives if you haven't. But for some time, and when you're hearing names you haven't heard before. If we repeat them enough, you'll hear them enough. But that's our Zoom family has certainly grown, and it may be that many of you are hearing people you don't know, but they are all loved and they all matter because they are, and so we welcome you into that sharing with us. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to ask Randy now if he will share with us the readings for today.
Certainly. And once again, thank you for everyone that's wearing the red or the orange. I must admit I had to scramble 10 minutes before going on, and I'm at the cottage going, what? So it's wrinkled, but this is my kayaking shirt. So the first reading is from the work of Canadian artist and writer Emily Carr, who lived from 1871 until 1945. The two themes in her novels and paintings were nature and the native peoples. She is said to have captured the large rhythm of Western forests, driftwood-tossed beaches, and expensive skies. and she was deeply inspired by the people and the culture of the Indigenous communities of the Pacific Northwest coast, particularly by the maternal imagery in the totem poles with their carvings of mother and child. Carr worked with oil, watercolor, and charcoal, but when money was scarce, she thinned house paint with gasoline and painted on manila paper. Loosely associated with the Group of Seven, she has been honored for her contribution to Canada's culture on a postage stamp, and her name has been given to an art college, numerous libraries and public schools, and an inlet in British Columbia, and interestingly, a 31-meter wide crater on the planet Venus. From Emily. More than ever was I convinced that the old way of seeing was inadequate to express this big country of ours. Her depth, her height, her unbounded wilderness, silence too strong to be broken. Nor could 10 million cameras through the mechanical boxes ever show real Canada. It had to be sensed, passed through live minds, sensed, and deeply moved. Deeply loved.
Those of you that have shared photographs over the years, Randy, you have of Canada, the love comes through, the love of this country. And I've chosen the second reading, and I'm asking Randy to read it two different ways. It's from a work by Maya Angelou called Letter to My Daughter. And she states that she feels everyone wants to be proud of the country they're living in. They want to feel it's a country where, and this is a quote, the mighty do not always crush the weak, and the dream of a democracy is not the sole possession of the strong. And she reminds her daughter of a series of questions asked by another previous social activist, as Maya was, 40 years before. She asks questions, and she asks her daughter to ask these questions of herself about her country. So I'm asking Randy to read it as it is, as it was put in the book, Letters to My Daughter. Randy?
What do you think of my country? What is there which elevates my shoulders and stirs my blood when I hear the words, United States of America? Do I praise my country enough? Do I laud my fellow citizens enough? Where is there about my country that makes me hang my head and avert my eyes when I hear the words, United States of America? And what am I doing about it? Am I relaying my disappointment to my leaders and to my fellow citizens? Or I am like someone not involved, sitting high and looking low? As Americans, we should not be afraid to respond.
And so I actually, of our American friends on the screen, that's yours. But I wanted to set it up as if Maya Angelou and Fannie Lou Hamer had been Canadians, and they had been alive during this very time of what we're going through as a country. And so I've asked Randy to read it again as if they were Canadians telling us the same things. Randy?
What do I think of my country? What is there which elevates my shoulders and stirs my blood when I hear the word Canada? Do I praise my country enough? Do I laud my fellow citizens enough? What is there about my country that makes me hang my head and avert my eyes when I hear the word Canada? What am I doing about it? Am I relating my disappointment to my leaders and to my fellow citizens? Or am I like someone not involved, sitting high and looking low? As Canadians, we should not be afraid to respond. Offered as wisdom for the journey.
May we walk in its light. Thank you, Randy. I'm going to ask Peter now to play the song recorded by Babette, which captures the values we need on this topic to give from a heart of love.
To give from a heart of love, to live as a source of love, to see where there is need for love, and be what could help what I see there, to share more in the work of love, to bear more of the cost of love, to go where there is need for love, and know what could help what I find there. Oh, may this be the guide in my life. May this be my wisdom. True compassion, deep respect, given from a heart of love. True compassion, deep respect, given from a heart of love.
Thank you for recording that, Babette. It looks like it won't be too long before we can actually record at the same time. It's been an interesting challenge to record in one place, send it over to another place, record on top of that, and send it to another place. But I appreciate Babette doing that, and just to keep some of the familiar melodies in our time together, when it can be. And Glenn is excited about recording with even more quality, so that will be a joy too. And I think I had a slide, I don't remember where it was, just again to thank the team that does those kind of things, for Peter to getting the slides on, for the sound, for Glenn to make this sound the way it is, for Dennis to expanding our reach far and wide. So thank you for those people that take the time to do that work, the setup, the takedown, the getting an email from me, then getting the next email from me saying, could we just change one little bit of that? And then the next email, and it all pulls together. There they are. Look there. Thank you for that. I'm going to invite you into a time of reflection with the idea of balance. I'm thinking about this at work a lot too. The word COVID fatigue was replaced at some people at my workplace by COVID burnout, and the idea that whatever was difficult before has been more difficult since the COVID and since the lockdowns, the quarantines, the restrictions. And so I wanted to talk about balance and use the main theme of Canada. And I'm welcoming you, those of you that are not from Canada, to reflect on your own country, but also I would like, and we're going to have a sharing time a little later on, to reflect about Canada. You're right. Some of you are touching us, and some of you are just a few waves away across the Atlantic. And Canada is in the news, and so I'm going to invite all of you to share this. We're really talking about a country one lives in, and it happens to, for most of us, to be Canada. But and there's much said about our country, much said. Glenn just gave me a quote this morning as we met earlier, and I love some of them. I'm going to give you some of the more humorous comments that have been made about our country. Canada is going to be a great country when they finish unpacking it, which I thought was a lovely. So sort of don't worry. I'm not finished yet. Don't worry. I'm not finished yet. Canada is the place where maple syrup is its own food group. I thought that was kind of interesting for those of you that know that. Then I love Toronto. I love it. I love Toronto. I love Canada. I can't wait to get back. I can't wait to have some Timbits. That's a quote from Alicia Tyler. And lastly, from Dan Aykroyd, and you're maybe familiar with this one. I'm sorry I live in the greatest country in the world. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. but Canadians apologize so much because we know we're the greatest. I'm sorry. And that was the quote about how great we are. But there's also been a lot of very serious and meaningful things said about Canada. You're probably hearing a lot of them now on both sides of the balance. Jack Layton, who we celebrate in many ways. Canada is a great country, one of the hopes of the world. And I'm wanting in our reflection to be still able to say that. Jane Fonda, when I'm in Canada, I feel this is what the world should be like. And you can hear that right away. You can think, well, not some of it, but that's always the case in every country. And that's what I want to talk about, the balance. Bono said, if you know this quote, say it along with me, I believe the world needs more Canada, which I think we could say right now, Canada needs more Canada right now, which would be very good. There's much truth in these statements, much truth, much good in Canada. And yet there's been on the news so much wrong, so much difficult. And I expand that. When we talk about the interconnectedness of life, we're not just thinking of Canada. We think of the whole world, the whole cosmos, the whole everything. And the balance has to be struck inside us every time when we hear something great, to not forget about what needs change. And when we hear about something that needs changing, not to forget about what's great. And that is, I chose the theme of lament and celebration, not as necessarily completely divided from each other, but linked better within us. So we have that flexibility to move along that line of balance. So lament and celebration, which again, when we're balancing that, can lead to commitment. So the lament is real and true, and the celebration is real and true. And with those together, to acknowledge the difficulties, and with the goodness that's there to be celebrate, a commitment to change, which is good. And the commitment to change in the ways that we can as an individual and the ways that we can as a community. And so I use those other two words that right now, if you turn the news on, or just whatever you even try to get on, the news appears in the side, we're peltered with it. The huge issues I chose to just focus on, one of them is the climate, and the other is community. And I just chose them that way because of the two letter C's from my old Baptist heritage of alliteration. But the idea of what's happening in the environment in the world around us, and what's happening to the people that we live with, and to lament what needs to be lamented, and celebrate what needs to be celebrated, and make that commitment to be part of the change. I've asked Michael, and Michael McCleary is up in Haliburton, without the script for the oath that new Canadians take to their new country. And we were talking back and forth, and I had asked him, he didn't have the script with him in Haliburton. But I love the fact that he's got it memorized because he's used it so much. And so I'm asking Michael to come on and say to us from Haliburton, let us hear what each person who becomes a Canadian says. And then Michael, if you could just add the thought of, and you might not have that with you, but the thought of what they're hopefully going to add to it. So Michael?
Thank you, Scott. Am I coming through okay? Am I close enough to the speaker?
Beautifully.
Okay. Just a little bit of background for those that you have never attended a formal citizenship court. The court is the final step in obtaining Canadian citizenship. So these folks have met the residency requirements, they've passed all the background checks, and they have been tested on the knowledge of Canadian laws and that type of thing. So they then come to a formal ceremony conducted by a citizenship court judge, full black robes, a Mountie in full dress uniform. That red serge is so much a symbol of our country. There's no getting away from it. So these people come and take the oath, and many of us, I was born here, so I've never taken the oath other than military service. And I've been doing this now for 25 years, and I've quite taken by it every year. And I would encourage anyone that wants to attend a formal citizenship court We conduct one in East York every Canada Day for the last 25 years I've been involved with it. The last 2 years, of course, due to COVID, there has not been a formal ceremony. The oath is administered virtually by the citizenship people. I did mention last week that the oath is being revised, and there's going to be new reference to the obligations of a Canadian to faithfully observe the laws of Canada, including the Constitution. This is the new part, which recognizes and affirms the Aboriginal and treaty rights of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Now, just the way it works out right now, all parties have agreed to that change, but it has not received royal assent. I don't think it's even gone through the Senate process. So technically, the current oath remains in effect. And once the Senate, I think they've risen for the summer, gets back and they will approve those changes. I can't think in the current environment that they would not. The first time I attended a citizenship court, the judge said to the 75 people that were receiving their citizenship in East York that day, we'll now say the oath, and we'll do it in French and English. Well, I'm sitting on the dais beside the judge, and I look out at the 75 people, and I see this look of fear in their eyes, because they had not contemplated that they were going to say the oath in both official languages. But the judge, to her great credit, worked us through it phonetically, je forme. And we would repeat after her, and that's the way it's done. And so that's the way I would propose that we do it now. I can lead you through the oath in English. There's two things. This is a sort of a formal thing that when we first started, we were told we have to have two things for sure. We need a Canadian flag, and we need a portrait of the Queen. And I'm at our cottage in Halliburton, and I thought, well, the flag's no problem, but I'm not much of a royalist and really didn't have a picture of the Queen until it dawned on me, the $20 bill, right? So we have what is required now to do a reasonable approximation of the oath of citizenship. Now, normally we would stand. I would suggest we don't have to stand today. Persons raise their dominant hands. Some people put their hand over their heart. Some people bring a holy book or something that is, meaningful, because this is a formal oath. You're making a promise to observe the laws of Canada, and so on and so forth. The oath has a kind of a historical ring to it, like we're swearing allegiance to the Queen. But she is the head of state of our country. So if you want to, raise your dominant hand, and I'll start. And
Michael, I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second. We have some Americans and some Scottish and some English people that may not, but you're welcome to be part of this, but you certainly don't have to swear an oath to Canada. And if you're Canadian and you don't wish to do that, please feel free to watch and to listen. But those of you that wish to do that, you're welcome to do it together.
I swear that I will be faithful.
I swear that I will be thankful.
And bear true allegiance.
And bear true allegiance.
To Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
To Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Queen of Canada.
Queen of Canada.
And that I will her heirs and successors.
Her heirs and successors.
And that I will faithfully observe.
And that I will faithfully observe.
The laws of Canada.
The laws of Canada.
And fulfill my duties.
And fulfill my duties.
As a Canadian citizen.
As a Canadian citizen.
There we are. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Michael. It is exactly the idea of commitment. I'm sure when you were hearing some of those words, both those aspects came up. Is the history contains both things lamentable and things that should be celebrated. And so the commitment is to do the right and the good in our country. And so now you are refreshed Canadian citizens. I hope if any of you Americans or English would like to become, you're welcome to become a Canadian citizen. But and some of you weren't born here and yet did. So I'm wondering, is there someone on the screen that actually did that to become? There we go, Anita. Yes, and even though it was England, right? It's a commitment to Canada. It's right. That's right. So the idea of committing to the country, the two responses that I want us to sink ourselves into for a moment is the idea of the lament, and then the idea of this celebration. Lament has a very strong and old sense to it, a very big word. And if something is lamentable, it comes from the idea of tears and crying and remorse. If something's lamentable, we wish it had never happened. We are filled with sorrow for it happening. And the idea of sorrow and empathy, some people by temperament are extremely empathic, and hearing a lot of bad, a lot of difficulty, a lot of horror can be almost so overwhelming psychologically or emotionally that it becomes too much. And so the idea of balance, when we're looking at the real things of the world, when we at West Hill took the idea to be aware of the interconnectedness of all life, that's a big haul, a big amount of reality to be aware of. And so some responses can be, how do I take care of myself with this burden aspect of life, with the heavy? And what it can fall into without us realizing it is an apathy. And an apathy is empathy is feeling with, apathy is feeling not. And it doesn't mean what we might think it means. Apathy can mean, and there are some philosophies and some religions that they solve the problem of too much emotion by saying no emotion, none at all. We will not feel. And some philosophies and some worldviews and some religions actually promise that if you follow a certain path, you will end up with perfect peace about the world, no matter what's happening. Perfect peace. And I just want to, sort of bravely saying that I strongly disagree with that idea, that we can achieve perfect peace while there is so much difficulty around us and within us. But the idea of peace, the idea of tranquility, the idea of rest is part of self-care. And we were talking about that last week, the idea of avoiding overload and avoiding apathy. So overload would be you are crushed by so much bad, by so much difficulty. Apathy would mean I don't care at all anymore. And I don't think, many of us are there, but the idea of apathy could mean I can't care anymore. So in the middle of there, the balance of that is that when in the realities of what is happening in our environment, and again, I know people who can't listen to the news without weeping. But the idea of what commitment can we bring to that? In our lament, in our sadness of that, we can still bring a commitment to do something, to do a little thing, to do a big thing, to join with people doing big things about the environment. So a commitment as a Canadian, as a Brit, as an American, as any Africa, whatever country it is, to realize that overload can happen. And it can crush that idea of what we can do. And if I'm saying this very honestly, and I say this at work too, if any of you need help with that, if anyone on the screen is having difficulty with bearing the difficulties, bearing the load, and when I said community and climate, that's also your climate and your community within your family and within yourself. So the self-care, how do I treat myself well? How do I find the things that will alleviate overwhelming sadness with something good? And we're going to look at slides in a while with that idea of remembering what is good even amidst what is difficult about it. So the idea of apathy, the idea of being overwhelmed, and the middle balance is self-care, to be able to say, I am in charge of myself. I'm the only one who is. So I get to do something in this. And now I'm not talking mental illness here, which deserves and warrants a great deal of very good help with that. And again, being overwhelmed with the news, if you're not being overwhelmed by the news, your temperament just may not do that, may not get there. It's not that you don't care. We're talking about someone needing to shut off sometimes and go out into the backyard and listen to the cardinal, or to read a book that's inspiring, or to phone someone on the screen and say, can I just cry with you? Or can I just sit with you for a while? Can I just be with you? And can I share what I'm feeling? So to be one's own composer of one's life, as we talked about a few Sundays ago, to take the ingredients, to look differently at something, to say, yes, it's bad. Yes, it's horrible. And yes, it's so horrible for some. What can I bring to that? And what do I need to establish some equilibrium in myself to do that? So the first idea of is balance between overload and apathy. And the second one of two is the idea of outrage. The idea of outrage and anger about what we're seeing and what we're doing. The reason that the anger comes is because of that same idea as the lament. This should not be. This should not be happening. This didn't have to happen. How can humans do this? How can we be this way? And so the idea of anger can be just as overwhelming as too much sadness. And so the idea of balance there is so important as well, that anger itself can eat the one who is angry and debilitate them from doing the good they can do. And so I made the distinction, I was reading the distinction between simple anger and an old-fashioned term called righteous indignation. Now, I said it in a funny way because it's often made fun of, but I'm going to take it and give it a little more weight. The righteous indignation, righteous anger. And when I talked about community and the climate, how many of you, you don't have to signal in any way, but how many of you have experienced such anger at those that did not listen to the scientists about climate change? And now, because it's affecting them directly, all of a sudden, it's an important issue. And that right there can get us so angry and so frustrated. How many of you are dealing with family members or close friends that are still against a vaccination, that are still against doing the right thing about COVID? And that can be so frustrating. Some of you have shared that. Some of you have shared that it's even ending conversations in families about this, and it's a very big problem with that. The conspiracy theorists that are even infiltrating Canada, that idea of our anger, our righteous anger at those things. There's a fantasy writer named Terry Goodkind. I love his name, Goodkind. I mean, he has a lot to live up to. It's just in his name, Goodkind. And he said this about anger, to use it well and to use it for good. Righteous anger could be a valuable tool, but it needs to be... I think that's David. There you go. Righteous anger could be a valuable tool, but it needs to be rational anger. Anger against evil, anger against wrongs. It has to be wielded the same way any weapon is wielded. It needs to be wielded with reasoned wisdom, tempered with maturity. It has to be respected for the damage it can do, not only to evil, but to the innocent, because anger that's out of control can hurt those that aren't intended. The person, the character in the story, knew that sometimes ability grew faster than the sense to know how to use it. Like a young man who grows muscles before growing wise enough not to be easily provoked into using them. Knowledge is a weapon. I intend to be formidably armed. And to be armed with knowledge to go and use the anger in a righteous way, doesn't eat the soul, doesn't eat the person up, but finds a way to be committed, finds a way forward to be committed. And so the Archbishop Desmond Tutu said the same thing as Terry Goodkind. And I leave this quote with you about using our anger at what we're hearing about the climate, about the community, about the Indigenous community, but also personally in our own lives. He said, righteous anger is usually not solely about oneself. It is about those whom one sees being harmed and whom one wants to help. In short, righteous anger is a tool of justice, a scythe of compassion, more than a reactive emotion. Although it may have its roots deep in our fight or flight desire to protect those in our family or group who are threatened, it is a chosen response and not simply an uncontrollable reaction. And it's not about one's own besieged self-image or one's feeling of separation, but one's collective responsibility and one's feeling of deep, empowering connection. I love that. The last part, it's about one's collective responsibility and one's feeling of deep, empowering connection. And that's the positive I want to swing this to, is that the connections we are, try to be extremely aware of elicit both the lament and the anger, but the idea of empowering connection places us as we compose our life to say, I want to be someone who does something good about anything I do here. And it could simply be a phone call. It could be a letter. It could be turning the lights off more regularly. It could be all the small things. It could be allying yourself with an organization that does good. Even if you can't financially support it, you can write encouraging letters to it. I want to do something good. So purposeful lament and purposeful anger, purposeful acting as composing one's life. And I just want to end before the sharing of Canada. Want to say that blend of good and bad is in each one of us. And sometimes for those of you on the screen, the difficulties in you, the things you wish you weren't like, the things you wish you were better at can be ponderous. You could lament that. And the stuff that's good inside you, we forget to celebrate it. We forget to celebrate the passion and the care and we try to do that together when we say, in this abundant blessing, we share the joy. So the balance, I read this beautiful comment on Rumi, some of Rumi's wisdom. And he said this, your hand opens and closes, opens and closes. If it were always a fist or always stretched open, you'd be stuck. Your deepest presence is in every small contracting and every small expanding. The two are as beautifully balanced and coordinated as birds' wings. So to feel the emotion, to feel the anger, to feel the sadness, also to reach out. I love the balance of that, to do as your hand opens and closes. And Thomas à Kempis said, be not angry that you cannot make others as you wish them to be, since you have so much trouble making yourself as you wish to be, which is a very nice reminder that we're part of a world that has much lamentable, but much to celebrate. Now, I'm going to turn to the piano, but you are going to be watching a slide presentation, and I want to explain it to you. I have found some Canadian songs. Now, those of you that from other countries, you may be familiar with this, and I want to say that some people from Canada are not familiar with some of our Canadian songs. If you had to name 5 British songs right away, I could do it. If you had to name 5 American songs right away, I could do it. But I've asked Canadians to name 5 Canadian songs, and it's sometimes a struggle. So as Dan Aykroyd would say, I'm sorry, we don't know our songs as well as we should. But I have picked a number of songs, and I'm going to play a medley. I'm going to turn, and we've figured out the sound well enough on the, Glenn has done his magic with the piano here, so I'm going to be turned there. And I'm going to weave the themes of the following songs. So you might not hear the tunes, you'll hear the chords of it, you'll hear it woven back and forth, but here's the following. The Huron Carol is one of the first Canadian Christmas carols written by a Jesuit brother. Now, at the time, it was absolutely what formed Canada, so I'm giving this a very specific title, God Save the King, God Save the King, Frere Jacques, if you've sung that song, Land of the Silver Birch, another Canadian song, Something to Sing About. If you remember that song coming around, you can stomp away to it when I'm playing that. The next one I'm including, the words can be very misunderstood, and I don't want them to be when I'm just going to be playing the song, but this land is your land, this land is my land. I want us to be listening to that in the spirit of our land, not an ownership. Nobody owns the land in that sense. And then a little bit of Ian Tyson with Four Strong Winds. That's a Canadian song. Then I have to include I's the Buys that builds the boat, if you want to head over to Newfoundland for that. And then I want to end, actually starting with it and ending with a slow and meditative version of our national anthem in the sense that you don't have to stand for it. It's just being played as a song. And after that, well, during that, I've chosen a lot of slides, and Peter's going to scroll through them. They're all from Canada, and they're all free to be shown. So I wrote Dennis and said, you can show these on YouTube. They're all Creative Commons, free photographs. They include scenery. They include different places the flag is being flown. They include inventions by Canadians. They include Canadian animals. They include the emblems, the seal, everything Canadian. And may I invite you into watching this if you can. If you're just listening to the music, just enjoy that. Maybe you could look on your own screen for Canadian pictures. But in each time you see something, I want us to bring that middle ground of commitment, because some of the things show something that could have been lamented in your own life, and then some great celebrations. So we bring commitment to these slides, commitment to these songs. So after we finish the slides and songs, I'm going to ask anyone who would like to say a word to Canada or say a word about Canada, something that you are proud of, something that you celebrate about Canadians, even just how long you've lived here or why you chose to move here. Or if you're not a Canadian, say, when I hear this about Canada, I'm so very pleased. So we're going to have a sharing time, a personal sharing time after the song medley. And you're welcome to stay muted and sing along if you'd like to sing along. But the difficulty is I'm doing it as a medley, so I'll weave in and out. So all of a sudden you might find yourself still singing something that I have changed and gone past. But just enjoy in your own home there songs of Canada, and then we will have sharing of Canada. So Peter, if you can start I had the first slide there to say the songs that are showing. Where's the song about the slide about the songs? There we go, all in red and white. Those are the songs that I will be. If I forget one, let me know and I'll plug it in at the end. So sharing Canada. So Glenn, I'm just going to do a very quick sound check, if I may. I have to move. Sound okay? Are people saying yes?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up? Excellent. I'm hoping that that worked out. Well, I couldn't, I wasn't matching the music to the slides because I wasn't seeing them at the time. But I hope you felt Canada there, or country, or home. And I hope you saw things to repledge yourself to, the protection of, the celebration of, the warranting of the value of. So I'm going to ask now for our sharing time at the end, and invite you to just unmute, and you might bump into someone, and that's okay, because collisions on Zoom are inevitable, but it just doubles the importance of what was said. So jump in and give a "Oh Canada" greeting or something you love about Canada, maybe how long you've lived here, maybe the reason you came to visit here, maybe the reason you chose to live here, something from one of the slides that you fell in love with one of those animals, or you're celebrating the invention of. There's just so much, and that's what we're doing. We're finding that balance between the lament and the celebration. To use commitment as the thing. So if you want to recommit yourself to something about living on our planet, living in our country, then that's good too. So I welcome you to do so. Please unmute and share something Canadian, even if it's to wave your flag or your shirt. And we don't see the wrinkles, Randy, by the way. There's no wrinkles showing on the screen for your shirt. So whatever you wish to share, please do.
I'm so glad to be your neighbor.
That was from New Mexico, was it not?
Washington State.
Washington, sorry, I got the wrong state there. Washington State, yes. Yes, lovely to have you close by, and close by on Zoom as well.
Are musicians and authors, and I think particularly of Gordon Lightfoot and the Canadian Railroad Trilogy, talking about the building of the railroad across this great nation.
Yes.
We don't have too long if the Canadians are going to win the Stanley Cup. Stompin' Tom, where are you when we need you?
Doug and I have had the privilege of driving across Canada and visit every province except Newfoundland. And at one time, the Canadian government had a program where they took young people and send them out to different communities to do volunteer work. I believe it was called Katimavik, and that gave the young people a chance to learn about different parts of the country that they'd maybe never ever seen before. And I really encourage everyone, if you possibly can, to drive across Canada, even over the years, in little bits and pieces like we did, to learn about them. And whenever we drove to a new province, we always visited the provincial capital buildings.
Whoa, lovely, absolutely lovely. For those of you that cannot do that, what the wonderful thing about the internet these days is you can travel on the internet and view Canada and get familiar with things you weren't before. Lovely, Kathy, thank you. Someone else, Vilma.
Yes, I'm reminded of when I became a citizen, there was not a formal ceremony. I went down to the office and there was just the person who was listening to me and myself, nobody else. And I took the oath, as you saw there, and that was it. No ceremony, nothing. Of course, that was some years ago.
We are very glad you did, Vilma. Exceptionally glad you did.
I'm very glad I did too, because I must say I am proud to be Canadian and to live in Canada, because in spite of all the things that happen in the colonial past, there is still much to celebrate. And for that, I am very thankful. And especially when I travel, I'm very pleased to use that Canadian passport because people respect it. And I can think of a time when it got me out of, well, I would have been bumped from the flight, and I was traveling with 2 young children. And I really was ahead of some of the other people who were trying to get on this flight to get back here, because their flight was canceled with another airline. So knowing me, of course, maybe you didn't think I would do that. As soon as I discovered that, I walked right to the front of the line and held up my passport and said, you know, I have a flight on the same flight and I'm traveling with 2 kids. And there was no question asked, nothing. That was just put on. So those times when
I don't see her very well.
It's great.
Well, we're glad you got back, and we hope that the others in the lineup behind you have gotten back now. That would be good if they've returned. Yes.
I'm sure they did.
Okay, good. Velda, or are you adjusting your set, or are you? Sorry, Velda, you're on mute. Perhaps you. Yeah. Okay, anyone else? Oh, look, Ingrid, tell us about what you're showing there.
I'm showing a picture of Buffy St. Marie. I was hoping you would have one of her songs in your collection. One of her songs that's talked about here, Up Where We Belong.
Ah, yes.
She refused to have an agent and the kinds of supports that a lot of popular singers have, so that she could sing the message that she wanted to sing that came from her heart. I'm at the moment reading her biography.
Very good. Now, you may not have realized, Ingrid, but they have a policy at West Hill that if you complain about what the musician does or doesn't include, you have to sing it. So, Ingrid, we will now wait as Ingrid sings the song that she has mentioned. If you want to practice a little, we'll come back to you, okay? Walter's putting it on mute. Very good. Anyone else something to share?
While Ingrid's practicing, Scott,
Sure.
that was just an absolutely wonderful rendition of your melody coupled with the slides. It was so good. It reminded me of why I love Canada so much as well. And I look back with real, just feeling totally blessed for the 20 years of paddling and portaging and camping in Wilderness, Ontario. It's just an absolutely gorgeous gem that we live in here, and as much as I'm a little over the hump for that now, it's I still get out there once in a while, but not quite as ambitious as we used to. But what a wonderful period of time in our life, and what a great place we live in. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. And such a good thing to protect our wild areas, our wilderness. Next, I think it was
Scott.
I see Anita and I see Melita. So go ahead.
Melita.
Melita first.
Oh, Anita's on first. Oh, no, I was saying you first, Mel, but I'll go. I wanted to thank Peter. He did that, I think, before did the oath when we were in the church. And it brings
Michael, Anita, it was Michael?
Michael, sorry.
Michael, yeah, no, it's fine.
Sorry. And so thank you very much for doing that. Brings back memories. 47 years ago, I swore those words. And I did have a ceremony, unlike Wilma, but we were tested. It was very nerve-wracking to be tested on all of these things about Canada. And I forgot Prince Edward Island. And the judge said, "Don't worry, a lot of Canadians do too."
Oh dear. Well, we'll make a commitment then to never forget PEI. We will not forget.
Yes, yes, thank you so much. Very beautiful this morning. I think all of us felt, very much that we love this land. So thank you.
You're welcome. Mel.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I grew up on the prairies, and we didn't have a picture of those big open spaces with the grain crops waving in the wind. And that's really quite an attractive sight. And I know there's a saying out west that says, "Oh, I can hardly wait to get home and stretch my eyes."
Lovely.
They were in BC or something like that. And the other old saying that we used to have was, "When the dog ran away, we could see him for days."
Well, now we also have a policy at West Hill, Mel, that if you complain about there not being your favorite picture there, I did have pictures of wheat in the collection.
Yes, I saw that.
And that means that you have to bake me a loaf of bread as recompense for that complaint. Yes, okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding. Kidding.
I have a sheaf that you gave me.
Oh yes, you're right. You're right. Yes, oh my goodness, you're right. Yes. Doug.
I'd like to just share a memory of about 75 or so years ago, when I was a little boy, 7 years old. My mother ended World War II, and that struck me as I was so amazed, because what happened was I got up that morning to go to school, but I didn't feel like going, and my mom said to me, "You go to school today. I think the war is going to end today. So I walked to school. We got into the classroom. We sat down, or actually the teacher stood us up and said, the war has just ended. And we sang, oh, no, not O Canada. We sang God Save the King, that day. And then I started walking home and I saw 3 RCAF planes flying over in formation. And then that night they cleaned our street off and put down some kind of a, I don't know, waxy substance. And we had a street dance, the whole block
On High Park Avenue.
on High Park Avenue, where I lived. And well, they brought a band in and it was just incredible. And I thought, my mom probably caused all this to happen. When you're 7 years old, you know, you don't quite understand these things.
Well, we celebrate your very powerful mother and you're a celebration. That's lovely. We figured out how old you are by your math there, by the way. You let it out of the bag. So that's, oh, there's the wheat. She did bring the wheat to the screen. If you can see, Mel just brought a sheaf of wheat from a long time ago. Yes, Mel, I remember that.
Yes, I think you came for progressive dinner.
Right.
at our-
I brought you a bouquet. Yes.
Yes.
For a prairie girl.
Beautiful.
Andrea.
It's in the living room.
In British Columbia, by the way, for those of you that don't know.
Scott, your tribute and slides, magnificent. Thank you. And I would just like to share a couple of other Canadian inventions, designs actually, done by my father, Julian Rowan.
Ah.
He designed the first thermos that was ever made for the thermos company. So he didn't get rich from it, but they made the money. So lots of us as kids had these thermoses that had a glass interior that broke all the time. Anyway, but my father also designed one of the first electric kettles for General Electric. And his proudest thing, I think, was a helmet, a hockey helmet designed for CCM. And the helmets that hockey players wear now are still based on his original design. And he, in a book called Design in Canada, I believe. Anyway, so I just wanted to share that.
Yes,
I was
thank
kind
you.
of proud of him.
Well, while you're on the screen, Andrea, I want to use you as the representative from the West and say that all of us on the screen are thinking of the West Coast and the temperature and the fires and everything. So I forgot to mention that in the sharing time. So I would just very, very quickly now say, in this our time of need, may love abound. Right. Anyone else, a Canadian sharing? I want to share one of my own. Sorry, Glenn, go ahead. Oh, Chris?
Yeah. So
yes.
Me, right?
You.
Seeing the slide of Banting, the co-discoverer of insulin, reminded me that I owe my life to him, because I've had type 1 diabetes for nearly 70 years and I'm still here. And I owe it all to that man and his partner, who did an amazing job.
We celebrate Banting and we celebrate you. Absolutely. Last, Randy. You're muted, Randy.
It's kind of ironic. I'm up here at the cottage, and during your presentation, the loon ate Paul, and has been with a newborn. So when the service is over, I'm going to jump in the kayak and go find the loon. That call at night just sends shivers down my back, but with pride.
Randy, I confess I did not find a loon in the Creative Commons, so it falls upon you to sing the song of the loon for it. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to make the sound. I'm going to discourage anyone from feedback, aren't I? You have to be participating.
Velda also had her hand up.
Frank.
I loved your medley, Scott. I'm still vibrating from it. It is wonderful.
Thank you.
I have a vivid memory from 1970 in Osaka, Japan. I was there at the Canadian Pavilion at Expo 70 in Japan. And that pavilion had in it a 360-degree screen that went around the audience. The audience was led in a group at a time. And the group came into the theater, and what appeared on the screen was wheat. Only wheat for 360 degrees, as far as the eye could see. And I'll never forget the moment the audience saw that, and there was a collective gasp, like you couldn't believe it. These people had been living in close quarters in Japan for all of their lives, and couldn't imagine that scene, which could only be photographed in Canada. I was stunned at that time too, but it's a vivid memory. It involves wheat and Canada.
Our spacious land. Yes, thank you, Frank, very much. We are going to, so Velda, just
one thing, Scott, quickly. I've always been in awe of the Aurora Borealis right across the prairies whenever I've seen that. And that was such a beautiful sight.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Since our theme has been balancing lament and celebration with the idea of commitment, and commitment to be part of the good, almost like the oath of a recommitment. I mean, every time we meet at West Hill, we're refreshing, we're renewing our commitment to live a valued-led life. And so I'm going to ask Peter now, having been just very kindly reminded by Glenn, I'm going to ask Peter now to put on the slides of the words of commitment. And if you'd like to unmute, or you may remain muted and say the words of commitment today, taking with you the balance of lament about our community and the lament about our climate, with also celebration for everyone who's doing something about the climate and doing something about our communities. So the words of commitment. The picture I put with it this time, last time it was the bamboo, I believe, but I've replaced it with a picture not of Canada, but of the globe, because it is the world that we're caring for. The earth
is my home,
and the world
my family.
As I live
every day, want to be
a channel for peace.
May I bring love
where there is hatred, and healing where there is hurt.
joy
Joy where there is
sadness, and hope there's fear.
I pray that I may always
try to understand,
comfort other people, as well as seeking comfort and understanding them. Wherever possible, may I choose to be light in the darkness, help in times of need, and a caring, honest friend. And may justice, kindness, and peace flow from my heart forever. Amen. So take that commitment we've shared together into your week, whether you are Canadians and it's your country, it's our country, but it is our land, it is our globe all together. So for those of you in Scotland and in England, thank you for being part of Canadian sharing, but it is about sharing land and peoples together. Those of you from the States, we're with you. We're with you all the way as you both lament and celebrate. Those of you from Africa and for those that are struggling, we are with you as well. So take the commitment to each other. Tomorrow, oh yes, America. There's for July 4th for the Americans celebrating. And I hope you do it with the same spirit of lament for what is lamentable and celebration for all that is worthy of celebration down there. And for those of you in other countries and for listening on YouTube or whatever, join. We're glad you're with us and renewing the commitment to care for one another. Thank you. Have a good week. Take care. All of you.
Thanks,
all of us.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you very much. That was
Thank you. Beautiful.
Yeah. Bye, Scott. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.
Thank you very
And
much.
you.
Thank you.
À bientôt, mon ami.
What did you say, Walter?
Until the next time. my
Is that what you
friend.
said? It didn't sound like that. It was garbled. You were garbled.
A bientôt.
He's garbled. Ingrid, are you practicing the song for me?
Well, no, actually, I did have one other thing I wanted to say.
Oh, please do.
You had so many pictures.